What if I told you it's not as clear cut when it comes to picking an action camera, especially when you're trying to pick the best one of 2024? Now, we've got some great entrances already. We've got a GoPro HERO 13 Black. We've got a DJI Action 5 Pro. Are we going to get an Insta360 Ace Pro? I don't know. But in the meantime, just comparing the two newest cameras to some of the others, eventually, which one stacks up as the best camera for you? It's not always about sensor size and processors. There's other things to consider, and in this video I'm going to tell you about 4 reasons that the GoPro might be the best camera for you and is actually leading the pack in some areas. We'll talk about that. But then I'm also going to tell you some of the reasons why the Action 5 Pro from DJI might be the best camera on the market right now. Let's get right into it. This video is not sponsored. They didn't even send me these cameras, so I can say whatever I want about these cameras, and these are from my experiences over the last, well, in case of the DJI, the last 24 hours, and the last about week with the GoPro HERO 13. I've done a lot of macro testing on the GoPro, and then since I've got the Action 5 Pro yesterday, I've gone on a motorcycle ride, I have been in the backyard doing some ND filter testing, I've done some low light testing, and some slow motion testing. We'll show you some of those highlights as we get through this, but the purpose of this video is to really show you that the GoPro really has a lot going on right now to make it one of the best cameras on the market with some features that nobody else is actually doing. The first one is the most obvious in this case, and that is the lenses that they are now putting out that are auto-sensed. It's a whole series of lenses. The macro lens is what I have on here. They also sell a super wide lens and a set of ND filters. Are coming out with an anamorphic lens later. Can't wait to get my hands on that one. But in the meantime, this adjustable macro lens and the other filters are auto-sensed, which just means when I put it on there, it adjusts the settings in the camera to whatever lens you put on the front. In fact, it's so good that when you put an ND filter on there, it actually says whether you have the right one. So in this set of 4, it'll tell you to either step it up or step it down, depending on the lighting conditions that you are in. And really, of all these lenses, the ND filters is the biggest game changer, just because I have ND filters for almost every action camera and drone that I've ever owned, and I haven't hardly used them, mostly because I'm kind of switching out and going about things quickly, and I just forget to get inside and change the settings, so I just end up not using them. But now with the GoPro, I can put the ND filter on there, get the effects that I want, because the camera's automatically sensed the lens and change the settings in the camera to get the motion blur or whatever reason whatever effect you're after. So that is a total game changer, the auto sensed lenses. The next feature, which is really cool, is this contacto system, which comes with this door that you can put on not only this, but it goes with HERO 11, 12, or the 13, so backward compatible, super cool there. And then it comes with 3 different cables. This is just the USB-C extension, but they also have 2 different lengths of the contacto. So you get 3 cables in the set, and they just magnetically attached to this door. Now the camera is charging, if it was plugged in. When it's charging, it does some other things, which I'll get to here is another reason why this camera is awesome. But there's 2 use cases. One, you put this on your desk or side table, wherever you're going to charge your action camera. Boom, and now you just kind of go about your daily business. Or you use it underwater, or at night when you're trying to get star lapses and you want a longer take that the battery is not going to have the right capacity. Now you have a better way of charging this. In the past, what you had to do was you had to get one of these pass-through doors and plug the cable in through there, which just, now you have 2 doors, and now this thing's not waterproof. This thing with the contacto door, still waterproof. In fact, you can charge this thing underwater. So that is a game changer. The third thing that I wanted to mention about the GoPro that nobody else is doing is the auto upload feature. Once you connect power to this camera, and contacto or otherwise, and you're connected to your Wi-Fi and you have it set up on your phone, the camera is going to auto upload all the footage and it'll be in your account. Which, again, you need a premium subscription to have that online feature, but it's unlimited GoPro storage. I think it's worth it. And then when you buy a camera, you actually get a year free, and you get discounts on all the accessories. So the GoPro subscription is, I think, really worth it. So that kind of combo feature, the auto upload with Contacto, is a 1-2 punch in terms of getting awesome footage in the place where you need it. So it just creates a more user-friendly environment, from on-the-go charging, using the different lenses, quick setup. It just allows you to get a better shot. And that's the way GoPro's gone this year, with using the AutoSense lenses and some other accessories versus diving into the camera. If I had to predict, GoPro is learning from its competitors and also has a new system in place coming soon, hopefully, maybe next year, that does a lot of the features that you see in these other cameras, bring it to the GoPro. And in the process, we'll use that great GoPro color that everybody loves about this camera. All my GoPros, when you put the footage together in a bright light condition, you normally pick the GoPro as looking the best. So hopefully GoPro will start to institute some of these other in-camera processing features that the other brands are going to. And lastly, a little minor thing that GoPro's doing is they've put GPS back in the camera, which we had on previous models. The 12 didn't have it, but it's back in the 13. This is not useful for everybody, but for me, riding around on a motorcycle, the fact that I don't have to have another input source, meaning a remote control or my watch or some other Garmin device to put the GPS track information there, is awesome. It's just baked in on the footage. It's easy. The other cameras have the ability to do the same feature, and like DJI just does it a different way. You can either use the GPS remote or any external source from, say, Apple or Garmin. That's a neat feature, but at the same time, I just like having the GPS footage right in it. It's right in the camera. That's cool. So those are GoPro features that really nobody else is doing yet, that really make this camera system appealing to a lot of people that are maybe vloggers, because you can use this camera in vlog mode and then auto upload the footage, come back to it later. The app settings for all these cameras are just different. Maybe eventually I'll do an app-to-app comparison on how you can daily use this footage, but there we go. Since we're on the GoPro side of things, some disappointments. First of all, the battery situation. They changed the battery form factor, which means my older batteries are now obsolete, and we really didn't get a dramatic increase in capability. Yes, we did get an increase, but some of the other competitors said, hold my beer, watch this. So there we go. Lastly, before I forget, I almost forgot, the GoPro side of things, we finally have magnetic mounts, which is great. Everybody's been doing that though, so it's not that big a deal. I'm just happy they've joined the crowd, and now we have magnetic mounts. Ta-da! So let's switch gears to DJI. The Action 5 Pro. What does the Pro mean? Well, the Pro, in my mind, and maybe this is the way they're deciphering things, is that because you have a certain nanometer chip and it's producing effects on camera, it's now Pro. So maybe we'll get a GoPro 13 Pro. Anyway, the DJI is a big leap from its predecessor, and it's fantastic. And just in initial testing, it really directly compares in terms of image quality and processor speeds with the Insta360 Ace Pro 1. Are we getting a 2? Either way, these cameras are producing similar effects, especially at low light, which makes sense. They have a similar sensor size compared to the GoPro, a little bit larger sensor size, and also processors on board that are doing more for the image quality and some other features with AI and slow motion, that kind of thing. So great camera right out of the box. Only had it for about 24 hours. I immediately took it outside into low light situations and compared the 4 cameras you see here, about an Ace Pro from Insta360 and the Go 3S, which I think is an underrated camera in most situations. It's one that I use really on running or outdoor quick activities that I just want to use that small little camera. Regardless, back to the DJI, sensor size and processing speed, producing a better image in low light conditions initially. On the motorcycle, those images seem to be pretty on par with the GoPro in bright light, in and out of the shadows. Things can get a little different, so in my future video, when I do a serious deep dive into the footage comparison of all these 4 cameras, we'll spend a little more time on that. Aside from the great image quality, especially in low light, we talk about a front touchscreen. The fact that as you manipulate this camera, you can just swipe up and change some of the settings right from the front touchscreen is fantastic. Why is that a big deal? Well, there's some situations, and again, motorcycle and mountain biking, if I'm putting on a chest mount and I can't get to the front screen, I can just adjust things in the front. So I like that ability a ton, and I wish other manufacturers, namely GoPro, would go that direction so you could adjust things from the front screen. The Insta360, not such a big deal because that screen's flipped up and you'll be able to adjust things, but the Action 5 Pro definitely is the best. Another thing that's really cool in this camera is the subject tracking. No other camera is doing that unless you have a DJI Pocket 3. And this does it all digitally. So cool. You are limited to 2.7K. You can either do it in landscape or portrait mode for those doing vertical content. In landscape mode, you can see the little box moves around as you move around the screen, and so it does keep you in frame, but its limits are limited. Now in vertical mode, it actually is a lot cooler because you can move side to side and you're using the entire sensor left to right in vertical mode to just really track you. So you got a lot more range from left to right that the camera is tracking you to get you some really cool effects. So I think some, TikTokers and more vertical content people will find that attractive. And the last thing is really battery life. And again, I'm going to go image size and all that stuff later. The fact that we have such a great battery in this. In fact, when I was out filming all day with both these cameras, I used the same battery and I still have 29% left on this battery, and I already went through 1.5 batteries on the GoPro. So it's just what it is. This battery is a lot better. It is different than the original batteries for the Action 4. It's a bigger battery at 1950. Same form factor size though. So you can use this battery backwards compatible to the Action 4 and vice versa in a pinch. You're not going to get the same effects because of the processor, the way it does some things with the battery, but regardless, the fact that you're using the same form factor across these cameras, I think is really cool. All right, so those are the big things, but that's not everything. In fact, there's a couple other reasons why this camera is awesome. 40 megapixel photos, slow motion, which is really cool on both these. I really haven't made a determination yet, just because as you look at this footage, both images slowed down. Which one looks better? Originally, I thought the DJI was going to end up looking a lot better, but I do think that the GoPro, and probably because of the colors, just looks a lot cleaner in my opinion. But the main difference when we're talking about slow motion, just getting it out of the way, is the way they implement that. The GoPro does a burst mode, 15 seconds, so you gotta get your shot in within 15 seconds. The DJI allows you to, as long as you're filming at 100 frames per second or larger, you will be able to select up to 6 clips in camera that you can slow down. And it does produce an interesting effect, but it's just a different way of going about slowing down footage. This way seems to be a little bit better for implementation if you're going to just be shooting some skiing, motorcycle riding, and you want to slow down one point. Boom, you can select it, it processes it, then you can preview it. You can actually delete it if you didn't like it, but that's just a nice effect. It's just two different ways of implementing super slow motion on footage, which is really cool no matter which way you go.
Oops, broke that off.
Internal storage, 47 point something gigabytes of storage, which in reality work for you if you forget your SD card often, but I don't. But for me, it's going to be mostly a backup source. So I'll normally use the SD card that's in it because I like to remove the footage a lot quicker just using the card. However, if I filled up that card, which I don't tend to do, but it's nice to have a backup source using the internal footage. The internal capacity at 48 gigabytes is nice, but really for me, I'm going to end up filling that up after a little bit anyway. Pressure sensor in the camera, which is also cool. I just don't think I'll use it, but if you're somebody that does mountain climbing or something at altitude, the ability to have that on there It also works underwater, so if you're a diver, snorkeler, you're going to like that feature. For me, I just don't tend to use that. And the last thing that's notable, not such a big deal, might be a big deal to you, is the quick startup time. This one does a very nice, quick, boom, hit the button, it's immediately recording you, which is a nice feature, and I do love that a ton. The other cameras all do that, and it does produce some nice footage right out of the gate. Will you miss your shot with that half second? I don't know, but it is nicer to have a quicker startup camera compared to its competitors. That's a nice, pleasant sound. So there you go. Those are just some of the big highlights when you're comparing and trying to decide between these two cameras. Everyone wants to jump on the DJI bandwagon in terms of image quality that they get at, especially low light, and it is great. But the GoPro has some nice features that might make it the better camera for you, depending on if you're going to be using all these accessories and want that contacto ability to get some night footage off of a battery. Just a lot of things that make it attractive as an ecosystem. And if you've had previous GoPros and you're just familiar with the way it's laid out, maybe that's the way to go for you. If you want a camera that's going to be better in a wider range of lighting conditions, from nighttime to early morning to in the shadows, then potentially the DJI is the best one for you. With that, what's coming up soon, we're going to compare footage between all these cameras. I'm kind of just seeing if there's going to be a rumor about the Ace Pro 2 before I do it all, but we're going to just take these cameras, do a deep dive into the low light footage, some other lighting conditions, just to kind of see how these things work. Yeah, or don't worry, I will take off the macro lens when I compare them side to side. So there you go. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel. This is my new channel, JB on Tech. I've done other tech videos on my other channel, JB Outside, which reviews mostly backpacks. But this channel is all about tech, wearables, you name it. More about that soon. If you like this video, you might want to check out this playlist. This playlist has all my other GoPro footage and videos, and that's where all it's going to live. And this folder over here, this playlist, has all of my older tech videos, which you can go back and look at, and they're all, I think pretty good, but they're hosted on my other channel.